if you're not investing for your child, this is exactly the video you need to watch. I'm gonna walk you through exactly what we do for my daughter, also other ideas out there that you could use today and take away. And it's crazy because 53% of parents don't even invest for their children, and that's a major concern. So after this video today, I wanna make sure that you have the tools and resources to go open these investment accounts. My name is Brennan, and I go by the name of Budget Dog on social media, and my goal is to create 1 million millionaires. So if you wanna learn more every single Monday, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, not to sound like a talking YouTube head, but that's what we're gonna do here. So every Monday, we have a new video to educate you in the personal finance world. So the first step to understanding how much you can invest for your child is to go back to all the Budget Dog content and understand what your budget allows you to do. And that was very clearly stated in many videos from a budget perspective, to understand your free cash flow and your ability to then help your child. This comes after a lot of the basics of personal finance, and you have to make sure those boxes are checked before you get here. And so once you get here, now let's look at this in great detail as to what we need to accomplish. So our goals for our child are very, very important to start with, because if we don't know the goals or if we don't have the end in mind, that's gonna be somewhat of a concern. So we need to start with the end in mind, then backtrack to where we're at, and then figure out the most efficient way from point A to point B to maximize our child's investments. And so I'm gonna walk you through what we've done for our daughter, plus other options out there. So the first thing we did was obviously understand our free cash flow. Now we came to the conclusion we were able to invest $500 a month for her. And so with the $500 a month, we had to divvy that up depending on the goals. And we had a few different goals. Our number one goal was education. Our number two goal was to kind of give her that starter fund, or maybe a house down payment, or maybe a car, or something along the lines of that. And then number three was any earned income that she actually had, I wanted to make sure we were taking care of. And so we had to account for all of these in our financial planning exercise. And so what did we start with? We kind of prioritized this, and we knew $500 was what we had. And what are we trying to accomplish with that $500? So the first thing we did was order from priority, greatest to least, and education was definitely that first one. We wanted to make sure we started with that in mind. So before we got to the other vehicles, we wanted to make sure we backed into a monthly amount to invest for education. And what did that become? So we went to Vanguard's Cost College Calculator, and we kind of got a good idea, and that's in the show notes below. But we basically found out that with all the inputs we put in, a 4-year in-state school that she would need, and we were gonna cover 60% of her education, we understood that she's gonna need $250 roughly per month to get to 60% of a 4-year in-state school in 18 years. And so we set that up, and it was very, very easy. And now we knew 500 minus 250 was going to allow us to invest in other vehicles. And so we knew the 529 was all but set. We didn't go with the state plan, and here's why. When we were in Kentucky, which we were no longer in Kentucky, we're actually in Texas, Kentucky did not have a state tax deduction with the 529 plan. So there was no reason to do Kentucky's 529 plan for us. There wasn't really a benefit. So obviously the funds and the fees or whatever within that plan were what they were. But I think the bigger thing was figuring out what is another plan in the United States that would make a lot of sense. And we figured Vanguard, my pride and joy, of course, as always, was where we wanted to roll with. So we went with Vanguard, which is actually the state of Nevada, but we didn't get the state tax deduction anyway. So there was really no benefit of using Kentucky. Then, as you guys know, we moved from Kentucky down to Dallas, Texas. So we were in the state of Texas, which has no income state tax. So the same rules apply, and there's not a really big benefit of using the Texas 529. So we just kept it with Vanguard. And we made sure that what she has right now is lined up to cover 60% of her school. And the reason we did 60% was kind of an internal belief system that we have of she needs to have some skin in the game. So we love to provide opportunity for our kids. That's a big goal of ours, generational wealth. But they need to understand the value system that comes with that money and the responsibility that comes with that money, in fact. And just to give her all the money in the world and just say, hey, you're set up for life, you don't have to do anything, is not the route we want to take at all. So we want to make sure we're providing opportunity, but at the same time, we're also giving her the ability to learn how to provide for herself at the same time. And so that other 40%, we kind of have a pseudo way of doing so, but plus scholarships, grants, working during school. I know it's a shock to many kids that you have to work. We worked during school, and I think it really grounded us and kept everything in check. We didn't have unlimited time to go do stupid shit. We actually went ahead and, actually worked when we had extra time. And then we also did really well in school as a result, I think. So to transfer that value system down to her is gonna be very important. So that's the first account. And a side note, you can also see the 529 changes that are coming by checking the right-hand upper corner of this video. You will see all the changes coming to the 529 plan. shortly, which are a lot in the Secure Act 2.0 in 2024. So be aware, watch that video after this. So the second account might surprise you. So I call this the parent taxable brokerage. It's really just a taxable brokerage account in the parent's name. And with this, it kind of rivals the UTMA and UGMA. A lot of parents talk about the custodial accounts or the UGMAs, the UTMAs, which I hate. And so, of course, Money Twitter, we put together this elaborate, piece of data where we basically calculated taxes in both scenarios, the parent taxable brokerage as well as the UTMA. And we realized it was pretty much a wash. And so when we were looking at this, we were thinking, well, if there's a wash with the taxes, which was the prior benefit before tax laws changed, what is the benefit of actually having a custodial account? The kid gets that account at 18 or 21, depending on the state. Some states actually 25. But what is the risk of doing that versus controlling it with your own money? And we looked internally, and my wife and I said, let's just control the money and gift it to her later. So instead of doing a custodial account, which I am not fond of, which is another alternative which you could use, we decided to go ahead and do the parent taxable brokerage. The other thing you want to be aware of is the UTMA and UGMA has a 20% impact to student financial aid. And that's a really big concern for me as a parent, which at the time, financial aid might be at play. We want to make sure we minimize the assets in her name, and so that's why we chose the parent taxable brokerage. So with us only having another $250, we figured if we put another $250 a month into this account, she's gonna have roughly $120,000 at the age of 18 since we started at 0 years old with a $3,000 start point. And we realized $120,000 for the 529 at the age of 18, which is 60% of her college, plus an extra $120,000 that could cover that extra 40% if she wanted. She could use it for a down payment. She could use it for a car. She could use it for all sorts of different things. And that was our goal, is to kind of give her that extra fund and actually let her grow up and make those decisions with obviously, practical expertise and guidance from her parents, but also let her kind of be her own adult and decide what to do with that money. Also, the other thing we left out here was we control it. So we get to gift her at whatever point in time, and we aren't going to just gift her $120,000 at one point. So we have the ability to give her up to, essentially in 2023, the gift tax exclusion is $17,000 per spouse per gift. And we obviously are married, so 17 times 2 per gift is $34,000 per year, totally tax-free. And we figured that would make a lot of sense. Instead of giving her $120,000 at the age of 18, we have the 529 that takes care of her college. She's not just gonna run recklessly with the 529 plan because it is for educational expenses. And then the extra money, I want a little bit of control on that, because I've seen some 18-year-olds out. I've been 18 and I know what happened. So while I trust and I believe she'll be a great kid, there is in the back of my mind, what if she goes down the wrong path? What if, the worst of the worst happens? And I've seen this before really happen with kids, where at the 18-year-old mark, they go off the deep end. They think about if they had an extra $120,000 in their name that they could recklessly spend on anything. And my trust attorney always says, Lamborghinis and cigarettes is what they spend their money on when they're not responsible. We don't want that to happen. And so we're gonna prevent that by basically holding control of the money and deciding how much to gift her. We don't have to gift her $34,000 per year. We have the ability to go up to that amount. And if we even go over, we can do so. We just have to understand that's gonna go against our lifetime exclusion amount when estate planning becomes a major piece of the equation. So you might ask, that's all $500 of your available cash flow. But here's another thing. So I own my own business and I happen to be online promoting Budget Dog and things of that nature. And a lot of it has to do with child investing since I'm talking to you. And so therefore, my daughter is a baby model for the brand, and she models different gear and different merch every once in a while that has the Budget Dog logos on it. We spend 3 hours at a photo shoot with a professional photographer. She's technically working, and she really is, technically speaking, as a baby model. So the other earned income that she gets from that job goes directly into a Roth IRA. So let me walk you through this process. One, it has to be earned income from the child. You are not able to go invest your money into the account itself. Secondly, we have to make sure that she's paid at a reasonable rate, and that if I replaced her with another baby, we'd pay her about the same rate as well. And it's reasonable work and it makes sense. So I can't have Logan at 1.5 years old calling up customers, because she wouldn't, right? But then saying, hey, yeah, I paid her, and then put it to the side. We have audited support. We have exactly when she worked, the amount that she was paid, and why she was paid. So we have all of that support in case we were to be audited, and there's a legitimate, reasonable business cause for what she does. And so as long as we keep it within that, we're totally fine. Now, you might be asking yourself, how can I get my child to make extra income? And so usually at the age of 7, the IRS starts to realize the kid as like a normal working adult, not really working adult, but somebody that can actually do some tasks. So maybe at 8 years old, they're able to file paperwork at your business. Now, if you don't have a business, you could always get creative with side hustle businesses and building that up and having your kid help with that as well and paying them a certain wage. Now, you also have a whole nother conversation around, do I 1099 my kid or do I W-2? There's pros and cons with both of those. At the end of the day, we have 1099 her because she does not have a ton of income from this. Obviously, she's not just modeling every single day for multiple hours a week. She's simply working a couple hours and just getting paid. She had about 8 hours of work in 2022 when she was born. So it wasn't a ton of work that she's just like raking in the dough. So how do I actually go about doing this and paying her? So I know I said I don't do an UTMA, but what this is just a bank account. So if you open a bank account, a custodial account in a child's name, it's considered an UTMA, and that's just by default, right? But what we do is we take money from the business and we pay her through payroll to her actual business bank account. Her bank account then goes directly into her Roth IRA. So it's really just a pass through. It's not really much of a holding spot. Technically speaking, that money then goes to the Roth IRA and then is invested. And that has started her retirement account. Now there's other ways around the Roth IRA as to what a child may be able to use for it. At the end of the day, we really are intending for this to be her setup for retirement, and that's all we do with that. So we have 3 main accounts. We have the 529 for education, the parent taxable brokerage for pretty much anything and everything starting at the age of 18. We have control over that. And then we have the Roth IRA up to her earned income. It's a very, very simple approach, but it's a very effective approach. Now, with that being said, if we let that kind of simmer and let that grow over time, that's roughly worth about $1 million at the age of 30. Now, that is with withdrawing the 529 funds and then paying her extra for, the business as she gets older. There's an entire chart we put together for this, but roughly about $1 million at the age of 30. So think if you set your kids up. We became millionaires at 30 years old by all the work that we did starting at 22. My parents didn't really give us these funds or these ability to invest or anything like that. So we created that. But think if you started your child at that rate. That is absolutely crazy. And you have the ability to do that right after this video. So I had mentioned I'm gonna talk about what she does plus other vehicles. So the 3 vehicles we talked about are pretty clear. And then the 4th one is the UTMA that we kind of briefly discussed. The 5th one is kind of an unconventional approach, but it's basically getting a rental property when they're born and then letting a tenant pay it down, maybe on a 20-year loan because they're gonna be 18 to 20 when they receive this. They can then get this property and they have all sorts of options what to do with it. They can live in it. First off, so they have a free home. Essentially, the tenants are moved out, they pay down the property. You now have a free home you just gifted your child. There's ways to sell it to use for college expenses. There's all sorts of things you can get creative with, but that's a more unconventional approach. I did not take that myself. It wouldn't be bad for people that are in real estate or really liking real estate. It could be an awesome approach to that. And plus you have flexibility. It doesn't necessarily have to go to any of those one things. You can sit on the real estate as well for a long time. Those are the 5 ways you can invest for your child. And they're all phenomenal, and everybody's gonna have a different opinion on different things, and your numbers are gonna look different than mine. But the goal is to start this process and understand exactly what my framework I talked about in the beginning as to how to go about this. Go figure this out for your child today, but make sure the boxes are checked before you get to this point. If you're not in order, you cannot help your child, because what happens on the back end is that you fund their college, but you don't fund your retirement or something along the lines of that. You get to retirement and you're in a nursing home. Who's paying for that? It's probably gonna be your child. You're gonna put them in a worse spot than the beginning. So don't get ahead of yourself. Make sure you check the boxes, obviously, and then go ahead and help your child. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post in the comments below, and I will make sure I respond to those in a pretty timely manner. I respond to every comment. I provide education every Monday, and I wanna make sure you become a millionaire and some, because it is doable. It's just a matter of you believing that you can do it. Taking the systematic approach that I use here within Budget Dog and actually applying it to your life. If you're listening to this video and you're not applying it, it's pretty much pointless and you're wasting your time. So make sure you're applying this in your particular situation so that you actually see success with your finances, because you will become a millionaire with time, and so will your children, and it's just a matter of time, because time, as always, is the biggest wealth building factor, and you have to start today. And if you don't, you're gonna be broke. And I don't want you to be broke. So subscribe to my page, be back here next Monday, and I will talk to you soon.